go. It's Guido coming at you with a tactics talk and some interesting news, actually. We're going to go over it. In the super test, they're talking about nerfing and buffing a lot of tanks. Specifically, the big news is the Kron line, the Kronwagen, which has become the bane of the meta. Not necessarily, well, did it cause the meta? I don't think so, but it joined the meta and it was very strong in the hold down meta. And some people would say it's a large part of the problem, but is it the whole problem? Probably not. Can they attack the entire problem at once? Maybe, maybe not. I'm talking out both sides of my mouth here because I'm glad they're looking at something to deal with the hold down meta. I don't know if this is necessarily the answer. We're going to talk about what the changes are, and we're going to also specifically talk about what they're not doing. Because as you may imagine, you could probably think of two other tanks that are extremely strong in the hold down meta. One of them has an extremely strong turret and a pretty good gun and a lot of speed, much like the Kron, but is not an autoloader. The other one has no lower plate. You can do the math. There's another tech tree tank that is actually performing better than the Kron that's not being touched as of right now. Let's take a look at the article and we'll talk about it. Because I find some of their terminology and the things they're talking about fascinating. We're resuming the rebalance and sending the first vehicle batch to super test. So that indicates there's going to be more. Good. That's a good thing. I like that. Working on the game and vehicles balance constantly, and now we want to show you the next changes. Fantastic. In the coming days, we'll start testing a large batch, divided into groups. Some will be grouped according to branches and tiers. Others will not be part of any group, but will require some updates to their characteristics. So I think they're trying to say in some cases they're going to do an entire tech tree and line anyway, an entire line. In other cases it's going to be mix and match based on performance. But it's an interesting list. Make sure you use the community feedback form, yada yada. After super test, vehicles with revamped characteristics will be released as part of a future update in late August or early September. So it looks like the Kron fans have until somewhere around early September to keep beating up on everybody. You've long been asking us to take a fresh look at the effectiveness of these two vehicles. The Kron and the... So in one case, the nerfing of the Kron, and in the other case, a buff of the M4 MLE54, I think is what they're talking about here. You know, the Kron was buffed a while ago. It was changed, but it turned into a buff. Because it was quite a niche vehicle and not a lot of people played it. Then they overbuffed it, essentially, with the change and some of the changes that they made to it. And it became quite a buff, and then it became the class of the meta. The AMX M4 MLE54 was released pretty weak. Okay, so that's super test. Important. The list of vehicles rebalancing and their settings are subject to change. So this is an early first look, but also we're going to talk about some of the philosophy behind this, I suppose. The Kron and the ML2, the AMX M454 line all the way down, the US line, the M103, T32 M6, gets down to the TVP VTU, the AMX 48 and 46 tank destroyers, and then you can see a laundry list of smaller tanks, which we'll get to. All right, begin with the Swedish high-tier heavy tanks. Here's what they say. The Kron and ML2 are the dominant heavy tanks in their tiers. Are they? We'll get to that. They offer very high battle performance, which explains why the Swedes are very popular in random and ranked battles. In terms of their characteristics, both are slightly superior to their same tier heavy tanks. I would disagree with this word slightly, but okay. Meaning that they can turn into formidable opponents when placed in the right hands. No, they can be turned into formidable opponents and placed into nearly any hands. That's why they are where they are. We want to reduce the efficiency of the Kron and the ML2 in several ways. Okay. First question I have, are they really slightly superior? And do they offer, where is it? Or are they the dominant heavy tanks in their tiers? And do they offer slightly better performance? Slightly superior performance. Is that true? What do you guys think? Well, I don't know. Let's take a look in the last 60 days what we got. And pretty quickly we're going to understand the thing they didn't do. What is the thing they didn't do? Tier 10. Heavy tanks. Win rate. All right, where's the Kron? Oh, he's down here, fellas, at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Clearly outperforming most of the tech tree tanks. But what about that guy? About the VZ55? DPG, VZ55. Frags, VZ55, then Kron. AMX sneaks in there. Damage ratio, VZ55, then Kron. Kill to death, VZ55, then Kron. We're just talking tech tree. Survival, 60 TP, guys with lots of armor. You get the picture, right? What about that guy? Well, okay, maybe that's coming later. Okay. I'll buy that, actually, as an argument. If you're trying to fix the tank that's causing the most problem, it's that other one. Which is played considerable amount at 185, whereas the Kron's 339,000. When that many people play it, or that many games are played in it, that means that across the board it's overperforming. You'd have to look at the tank curves to get the actual details of whether it's a low skill floor, high ceiling, and how that all works out, and at what skill levels it overperforms. But across the board, based on the numbers here, it is overperforming the last 60 days on NA, which is where this is all taken from. Perhaps it's different on RU, or well, I guess it's EU now. We'd have to take a look at that. I don't know. Let's see. See what happens if we go to EU, we go to tier 10, and we go to heavy. It's a good question. VZ55 Kron, okay. DPG, VZ55 Kron, frags, kind of similar there. Damage rate, oops, I'm still on NA. How did I manage that? There we go. That was odd. That was very strange. All right, back to where we were. We stayed on EU this time. Very good. VZ55 Kron. DPG, yep, same thing. Frags, kind of made the same switch. Damage, oh, okay. Well, there you go. But like I said, I'll buy. I think you might as well. Might as well, not as well like give it up and have to, but as well as in also to, in addition to. Buy that they'll eventually get to the VZ55. I don't know why she swallowed the fly. I don't know why they're not dealing with that first, but okay, fine. Kron it is. Howsomever, there is an elephant in the room. He's right over there. He's everywhere. You can't even move the elephant. That is so big in the tier 10 room. The balance elephant says, ha ha, 279 early, FV 4201. I don't know, probably not the 7201, although that's quite good. It does have a low amount of games, and to some extent, Object 260. So, Wargaming, where do those fit in the verbiage of balance? We are resuming the rebalance and sending the first vehicle back. We are working on the game and vehicles balance constantly. Are you? Serious question. I mean, the elephant says, you're not. That's a lie. It's a lie. So why are we not working on it? Well, the reward tanks. There's a lot of reasons. It would be nice, though, if you actually said that. If there was an ounce of honesty and they said, yep, those are very powerful tanks and we want them to be so because of our reasons. Do you think that's going to happen, folks? Do you think that that'll ever happen? It has slipped out. That those words to that effect, ideas to that effect, have slipped out at times. And it may be that they just assume everybody knows that. But when you say things like, we are working on the game and vehicles balance constantly, and then you ignore the largest elephant in the room, then you have no credibility. Because you're not balancing anything. You're playing with lower tier. It's not tier, but second-rate tanks in terms of the 3 or 4 that are on top. Now, to be fair, as we go back over to here, the VZ, Kron, and Super are at the top and probably need work. I would agree with that. The MLE dude is actually not the worst. The T57 is actually one of the worst. But the MLE is down here, the M454, so that's one of the ones that are going to buff. Okay, fair enough. To also be fair, you can't do every single tank at once. You might be able to if you fix your ammo problem. That's a whole nother video for another time. But So good. I am glad that they're looking at it. I am not pleased, and I do have questions about the sincerity of the balance claim when this garbage keeps happening. Oh, by the way, it's not just there, is it? Tier 8. That's Heavy's Tier 8 on NA. How far do I have to go before I find a tech tree tank? Goodness gracious, great balls. The 168.01 is considered a bad tank. And there's not a tech tree tank in win rate. Oops, I don't have it sorted right. Hold on. Let me get my Shia together here. All right, there we go. There it is, 100.01. So it's not nearly as bad as I thought. He's in the top 20, right? He made one of the tech tree guys made top 20 win rate. You get what I'm saying, though, right? Picking up what I'm putting down. All right. We have a balance problem in the game, and it is obviously reward and premium tanks that are overpowered and are not being touched. So we can rearrange the furniture, the deck chairs on the sinking Titanic of balance all day, and we can make flowery words, and we can put out an article and say we're always working on balance. But if we demonstrably are not balancing the problem tanks, the real problem tanks, then it's not very sincere, is it? No. But let's go back to being fair. They're doing something with these. Let's talk about that. The Kron, the Emil, these are tanks that are going to be buffed in here, although some of these might be debuffed. I'm not sure because they break it down a little bit more. The numbers, basically, I think this graphic may show it a little better here. There we go. So the speed of the Kron's going down to 45. Oof, that's a bit of an ouch. Especially if you're a fan of it, right? I'm not saying it doesn't need to be done, but there you have it. The backward speed is going to 12. Man, I'm telling you what, I think the T77 does something like that backwards. That is so painful. Trying to get away from stuff. Oof. It's weird how that backward speed at about 15 and higher is good and 15 and lower is super bad, just based on the way the game is played and how fast most things are going forward and how hard it is to get yourself around a corner or back down from a hill. It's about 15 is the real cutoff there. And it's a severe drop-off in either way, or bonus, depending on what you're looking at. Gun dispersion is getting worse during turret. Dispersion at 100 meters is worse, and reload time is getting increased. That's a huge, huge, huge thing. Because these really fast reloading 2 and 3 round auto loaders are extremely dangerous in this game and are almost unbalanceable. Go too far, they're almost completely useless. Just a few seconds earlier, they're absolutely overpowered. It's a weird thing, all right? But they're giving it a shot. The Emil 2, we've got the forward speed is getting cut significantly by 16 kilometers an hour. The backward speed's a similar situation down to 12. We have dispersion, debuffs, a reload time increased significantly by 5 seconds on the one gun, on the smaller gun by 3 seconds with some similar debuffs. So there you go. So we can get back here. I don't know what's happening. Okay. So, all right. They're giving it a shot. They're going to try to help a brother out with the Kronvon and the hold down meta and the whatnot. Do you know what's not been addressed in any way, shape, or form? Why is the Kronvon so good hold down? Primarily it's the turret, because you can sit there and peek and poke and blap you. It's nice that maybe he's going to miss some more of those. He is going to reload slower, so he'll be out of the fight a little longer. Those are all important, but there's really no place to shoot this guy on the turret. Let me know what you think about that down below. They're the dominant heavy tanks in their tiers. Are they? I'm not even going to go back to the stats we just looked at. I mean, they're one of the dominant. They're not dominant. They're one of. All right. I don't know, man. It's crazy. Then they talk about the ML2. All right, so they're going to buff the MLE thing. I kind of like these tanks overall. Not bad at all. But the side armor's going up, the total hit points, the whole traverse speed is slowing down. I don't know why. Gun dispersion for hull movements. So some of the soft stat things are getting buffed. Pen's going up. Reload time's going down. Shell velocity up. The gold shell velocity is up. Interesting, they say second shell. Dispersion's going down in a similar situation with the other tank. So an overall buff is what we're looking at for that tank. Slide on down here just quickly, the AMX 65T. This will be interesting because this is one of the perennial underperformance, although it's not the worst tier 8 heavy. It's definitely in the running. So dispersion buffs during movement and hold traverse. Okay. Hit points up by 50. The big gun is going to reload about a second, a little more than a second faster. Aiming time is better. Gun. So it's got a pretty good gun. We'll see if that is a kind of slight buff, but assuming that means that they didn't look at it, but that has to mean that its DPG is going to go up, or DPM anyway. And then the MLE 45, I always thought this was a pretty good tank, but it's getting, it says 195. It doesn't show what the difference is, but it's getting some buff and armor and some hit points there, which is nice. Very good. And then we get a long list of other things that are going on. The American Heavy branch, we're not going to delve into these too much right here. They're going to review the American Heavy. I would imagine the 103 and the T32 will get buffed. They do mention the T29 is traditionally overperforming. You know what? Is it? Let's find out. Let's actually have facts here. Now, I'm taking facts as I see them based on the data we're getting from them. They have their own data. But yeah, it looks pretty good. But you know what else is overperforming? The M44-1. All right, T29 DPG is going well here. Yep, number 1. But look at the other tanks that are above it. Premiums, King Tiger, Skoda, they'll never touch those, will they? King Tiger, Skoda, IS2, a bunch of other stuff, King Tiger, Skoda T45, you get the picture. Same situation at nearly every tier. You will be hard-pressed to find a tech tree tank that is performing in the top 3 across any number of those numbers. They'll sneak in every once in a while, they'll get close, but not a solid number 1 tank at that tier. It just does not happen. So that's what we're looking at there. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the T1 M6, all these guys, whether it's a buff or debuff. A lot of lower tier stuff I don't care about too much. These are going to be improved. The KV1S, the EZ8, the Type 58, the TVPVTU, and the MLE 48 and the AMX 46, and then they're going to decrease the T25 MT, the Czechoslovakian Tier 6 with the auto reloader. That's actually a very good tank. The Polish buggy. Remember when the Polish line came out and everyone said the buggy and the CS44 were horrible? Do you guys remember that? Well, that's not true. And I don't know if I said the same thing. I'd have to look at it, but if we look at medium tanks and we find the buggy here, actually the, what is it? Buggy, there it is. So it's actually pretty good in terms of tech tree, but the 3001D does better. There's the buggy, the number 1 tech tree at that tier, and I'm not showing you enough of the thing right here. Probably did that the whole time. You get the picture. So it's near the top as well. The T67 is at the top. At tier 5, it's actually one of, if not the best meat TD, and it has probably needed a debuff for a long time, so it's going to get looked at, and then some other smaller TDs. What about the Sherman? Where does it sit at tier 6? Does it really need something? Probably does. Where is it? We got to go with mediums. That always helps to have the right kind of tank. Where does the Sherman live? Yeah, he's down at the bottom. So definitely a bottom dweller. I noted that when I did my best tier 6 medium tank thing. I don't hate the tank, but it just underperforms overall. Let's just take one more stab at another one. For example, these things all need a buff. Type 58. Where does that guy sit? I think, is that a tier 7, I believe? Don't remember. Type 58, medium tank. Nope, it is a tier 6 because the 34100 is the tier 8. Where does Mr. Type 58, 38? Kind of random, right? I mean, it's bad, but it's not the super bad in terms of win rate. So there you go, guys. Quick breakdown on that. I think the bottom line for me is definitely appreciate that they're going to try to do something with some of these tanks. The Kron is certainly in need of some balancing. It is a bit of a problem in ranked and even randoms, the whole down thing, but it's a symptom to a large extent, and it's not the problem. Hey, you can treat symptoms, it's all good. But if we're going to look at balance, if that's actually true, and that is a goal, then the company has to look at premiums. Otherwise, stop blowing sunshine up my rear and saying you care about balance. What you mean to say is you care about balance in a relatively short band amongst tech tree tanks, and if you can keep some tech tree tanks from being a problem for the meta, you'll do it, but you have zero interest in doing anything for overall game balance in terms of reward and premium tanks. That's what we hear when you say one thing and do another. Just being honest. You guys let me know what you think down below in that. Yep, let's do it. Let's rebalance it. It's a good start, but we got more to do. That's all I've got. We will see ya.